We ended up doing all of our international traveling in Africa by plane. This obviously has its perks, especially when you get bumped up to business class quite by chance, like we did on our flight from Ethiopia to Mali. But there's something jarring about it too. It means you make a very abrupt transition from one country's capital to another, without seeing the small villages or cultural transitions along the way. By default, our fellow passengers were Africans from the higher economic percentiles of their society. However, this did not protect them from the miserable service of their national airlines, such as Air Mali. We ended up buying a flight with the latter airline to travel from Mali to Ghana. This was Yosee's preference after several long African bus rides, which I'll get to later. This flight was delayed 4 days, and our baggage was delayed another day. But I decided to try and instill some Western-style accountability in this company by filing a complaint and calling their offices multiple times. However, Air Mali has a simple way of dealing with these grievances. They just don't get back to you. Buses in Africa are notoriously unreliable too, and are the most blatant examples of Africa time in effect. In Mali, to get north from the Niger town of Ségou, like good little tourists, we bought our tickets the day before and showed up early for the 8 a.m. bus. Over the course of 8 hours of waiting, I went through a journey of emotions. I was confused, always checking to see if maybe any of the various buses pulling in and leaving wasn't ours. I asked a man who seemed like he worked at the station, "What's going on with our bus?" He asked, "Pourquoi, tu es pressé?" Why, are you in a rush? No, I thought to myself, I guess I'm not in such a rush. So I sat back down, inspired by a new Zen meditation on life being the journey itself, and certain that as soon as I stopped waiting, the bus would arrive. And that did, indeed, seem to be happening when the worker picked up my bag and rushed it over to load on the bus that had just pulled in. However, the driver turned out to know more than the man with my bag and informed him the bus was not ours. I sat back down to meditate on the incredible patience of African commuters, till we eventually gave up, and decided to go the next day. When your bus does get moving, it's often a bumpy ride, but gripes about the condition of African buses are already cliché. I will, however, relate a few of the interesting behaviors I encountered throughout our journey. In Ethiopia, passengers never want the window open, even when the sun and the stuffiness make the alternative unbearable. I was told the locals have a fear of catching cold from a draft on their neck, so we mostly suffered this in silence. In Mali, despite being considered one of the poorest countries in the world, we saw very many privately owned motorbikes. It was particularly striking how many women were behind the handlebars. In many places, train lines have existed since colonialism, but are not exactly in use. In Ghana, I had heard of VIP buses for long distances, but the line for one of these buses circled around the large waiting area. So instead, we boarded a competitor bus right outside, whose fleet allegedly consisted of the year-old VIP buses. It was more comfortable than business class on Ethiopian Airlines. In Jenne, we were encouraged to take a horse and buggy to the villages nearby. We didn't understand the point of the antiquated transportation, and joked around that it was a novelty marketed just to tourists. That is, until we had to cross the river. The Niger River is Mali's most effective highway.
Tristeza não tem fim, felicidade Jesus. Felicidade é como a boca do orvalho, uma pétala de flor.
Ça va? boys that work the buses are amazing. Unlike in my country, someone is always employed to collect the fare and hand out change. On a minibus in Ethiopia, this was done by what appeared to be an 8-year-old boy. On a bus returning from the Simeon Mountains, I begrudged the fare collector, since he wanted more from us than what we paid on the bus there. But he revealed his expediency and kindness. A sack of wheat tore on its owner, one of the passengers, and this boy spent over 10 minutes helping collect it by hand from the dirty stairwell. When the driver wanted to buy firewood and finally found some at a good price, the boy clambered on top and hauled the sticks up. These boys often stand by the door and shout to potential passengers. They seem to me like a special breed of boy, more mobile than most of their peers, and living life somewhat on the edge. Africans have figured out a wonderful solution to the hardships of long commutes: snacks. At all stops we made in all 3 countries, merchants flocked around and even inside the bus to sell a variety of foods. In this sense, African passengers enjoy some of the most convenient service I've ever seen. In Accra, Ghana, where traffic jams give entrepreneurs a lucrative market, you can buy not just snacks, but anything from toilet paper to cell phones, razors, and crazy glue. African passengers exhibit prodigious patience and tolerance. During that long day in the Sekou bus station, many families also passed hours away without complaint. Children regularly passed long bus rides away standing between or sitting on their mother's legs. Stops are made inconceivably often and sometimes for inconceivable reasons, but this rarely elicits protest. On minibuses in Africa, there's a totally different sense of personal space than what I was accustomed to.
זה מיניבס שאולי אמורים להיכנס בו 7 אנשים, אולי 8, 20.
Only in Ghana did I see the one-person per seat policy observed. But everywhere else, I was amazed at how many people were packed into some of these vehicles. And just when I thought we were full to capacity, that we'd drive straight for a while without stopping, another passenger was let on. Whereas in my country, a passenger will huff and puff at another one for invading their personal space, in Ethiopia and Mali, they reconcile completely with being all but sat on. Ethiopia, Mali, and Ghana have their Bajaj, Sotrama, and Trotro, respectively. Shared taxis with set routes that assure you of never having to wait too long for transportation. But where Bajajes and Trotros are unavailable, any vehicle with wheels may serve as public transport, such as trucks and donkey carts. I felt that the drivers were generally on our side. They came frequently, eager to match demand, calling out their destinations and checking to see if you fit the bill. The motive of all commuters is to get where they're going, but Africans understand that they share this desire with legions of others. The drivers, driven by profit, do a pretty good job of filling this need. I think I'd take the rickety, precarious, but ultimately reliable African ground transport over Air Mali any day.